My uncle's wife died of a drug overdose. She was white. He met her when she was pregnant with another man's baby. My uncle lived on the Lower East Side. He was able to give up heroin once he left New York and moved to California. He moved to San Diego. When he was young, he got his name in the newspapers because he was a star pitcher for the Little League. He became a golf caddy in his teenage years and gave his mother all the money he made. He moved to California and became an addiction counselor. He helped a lot of people. He was good looking and he charmed the ladies. He had 11 years of clean living. He had some good years, but he didn't have a long life. I flew into LAX at midnight. I drank a Long Island iced tea in my hotel room and watched 90 Day Fiancé. My cousin came that we met through 23andMe. He contacted me on Facebook, but I deleted it because I thought he was a catfish. We met at my aunt's house. He's from New York. We look alike. My uncle didn't know he had a second son. He died of pancreatic cancer when he was in his 50s after heroin problems of his youth. He died not knowing he had a second son. All we have left is his wallet, pictures from when he was in the military. I want to give him to his second son. I was adopted from Catholic Charities. My mother was 15. When she found out she was pregnant, she didn't tell my biological father. I was adopted by 2 white college professors, a husband and a wife. They also adopted 3 other light-skinned black kids. They taught at colleges in Utica. When I was in elementary school, they moved us out to the country, where there were farms and animals and no other black people out there. There was this boy who lived a few houses down from us. One day he told me he would never sleep with a black person, but he used the N-word. I was 11 years old. I had never heard the N-word before. So I agreed with him. I told him I would never an N-word either. When I was 14, I wanted to know some black people. The more hood or street a black person was, the more I wanted to know him. One day when I was at the mall with my white friends, I saw a group of black teenagers. They looked like tough guys. I went over and said hey to one of them. He must have thought I was wild because my mom, she took me to hair crafters to get my hair cuts. Hair crafters in Oneida. The ladies at hair crafters didn't know how to cut a black man's hair. I mean, they tried. They couldn't do precision work, but they tried. I just kept an afro. When I was in my 20s, I had a black girlfriend and I got her pregnant. And we had a son, and he's 18 now. When I was in my 30s, New York State changed its laws. I was allowed to see my birth information for the first time. I located my biological mom, but my dad passed. I was able to speak with biological relatives from both sides of my family. My adoptive parents, they were good to me. They provided for me, and for my son also. But I wanted to know my biological parents too. Anyway, the dude at the mall that I went up to, he talked to me. He became my best friend, in fact. Since I was 14, we've been best friends ever since. The police stopped my aunt when she was driving in North Carolina in the 1930s. She was the superintendent of colored schools in Mecklenburg County. She got a doctorate in education from Columbia University in 1929. She was a collector of African art. She became a professor at Hunter College in New York City. but they accused her of driving a stolen vehicle. She didn't get respect. She never had kids or got married. If a person has kids or gets married, or if they don't have kids and don't get married, that has nothing to do with if they contribute to our country's future. There are people with kids and without kids that make our lives better every day.
During the 1950s, when you applied to college, you had to send a picture with your application. And if you looked too Jewish, they would not let you in. When my second cousin was young, he looked like white child actor Freddie Bartholomew. He looked white like his mother. In Brooklyn, he got beat up for looking and speaking how he did. When he grew up, he told racist jokes about black people and Jews. In the 1950s, he went to college in Pennsylvania. He didn't display pictures of his family. He got involved with the brothers of several fraternities. During family weekend, his parents came down to visit. His mother looked white, but his father was definitely colored. After that weekend, all the fraternities sent him letters stating that they could not offer him a place in the membership of their organization.
When we moved from Virginia to Maryland, we built a house and somebody left a flyer in the driveway for the Ku Klux Klan. Now you would think this was like back in the 60s. No, this was in 1995. And the reason why it didn't bother me is because I said I'm not going to let this ruin my experience of buying a house. And people think, why do people always complain about racism? But like half of the things, probably most of the things that happen, we never even publicized. I never took that to the news media or anything like that. Most of the things that happen, we don't even verbalize. We just live with it. I just let it motivate me to enjoy my house, because I'm not going to let somebody take away my happiness of getting my house just because they want to leave a Klan flyer in my driveway. A draft notice came for me in the fall of 1960. I got my basic training and advanced infantry training at Fort Dix, New Jersey. After that, I did a tour of duty as a platoon sergeant. Then I got shipped off to Officer Candidate Training School in Fort Benning, Georgia. I finished my training in the spring of 1962. I was commissioned as a second lieutenant. When we left the base to catch the train, we were told that the trains were segregated. We colored officers went to go sit in the colored car. Then some white guys came into the colored car. They were guys from the officer candidate training. Then they came and sat down with us in the colored car. And we all rode up north together. I was sitting in the living room minding my business, reading this book, The Fire Next Time. Grandpa was sitting in his chair watching Jim and Tammy Faye Baker. Then Buttons came in the living room. He sat down on my couch and then started calling me Nancy the Nazi. That's the stupidest nickname. It doesn't even make any sense. I don't know why he didn't sit on the couch that my brother was sitting on. Every time he comes in the room, he has to squeeze my arm the same way he squeezes Grandma's arms. I threw my book down so I could go into the kitchen and get me some Kool-Aid. Buttons followed me into the kitchen. Then he started laughing like the Joker. I'm sick of Buttons. After we graduate from high school, he is never going to see my face again. I confessed to Grandpa. I said, I'm in love. He said, you talking about you in love, and you don't even know how to boil water.